welcome back to another episode from Off the Post. In today's video, we're going to be ranking the top 5 greatest Premier League midfielders of all time. This can be anybody from Paul Scholes, Steven Gerrard, Cesc Fabregas, Yaya Toure, and all these other great players in the game, in the Premier League. Now, we've only got one rule, okay, and that is they're going to be centre midfielders, they're going to be number 8s, no CDMs, no defensive-minded midfielders like the Roy Keanes, Patrick Vieira's, because I've got an idea where I want to crack this into a series where I sort of rank every player from each position. So let me know in the comments whether you want that or not, for you guys to watch and get my thoughts on all these different type of players back in the day, to current players as well. Obviously, I am quite young, so I've watched more players a little bit more than some of the players maybe on this list, so that also varies into it as well. So, it's always a good debate, don't get me wrong. Every player on this list is fantastic, they're great in their own right, but obviously it all depends on who I've watched a little bit more and who I rate as a footballer a little bit more. So, as always, like, comment and subscribe, because that would be very much appreciated and it'll help me out in the long run in my YouTube channel. And I've created 2 videos so far, and I've got to say I really appreciate all the support on my socials, on my YouTube channel. We are getting a load of views, so I very much do appreciate it, so thank you once again. Right, so I think we should just get into it, right? For me, we're going to start off with number 5, okay? Number 5 for me is Yaya Toure. Obviously, joined Man City in 2011 and had 8 years in the Premier League, left in 2019, and he joined from a Barcelona side that did some pretty decent stuff in the Champions League, in La Liga as well. Obviously joined from that Pep Guardiola side, Barcelona side, and there were high expectations from Man City fans, and I think he hit the ground running pretty much straight away. Let me give you some stats from Yaya Toure, okay? In his whole time in the Premier League, he made 230 appearances. He got 62 goals and 32 assists. Now, that's a pretty decent run from anybody's standards there, I would say. And he's also got 3 titles to his name. For me, Yaya Toure, he's an outstanding player. His main key attributes were his pace, his power, his strength in midfield, driving with the ball, and also shooting as well. He wasn't very defensively minded, some might say. I don't think that was his strongest attribute. He could do it as well, don't get me wrong, but that wasn't his strongest attribute out there. And I feel like in that 2013-2014 season, if I'm correct, that might have been his best year. He was absolutely tearing up the whole Premier League in that one season. I'm pretty sure he scored like 20 plus goals in that one season. Like, he was running right on the whole league. Nobody could stop him. No midfielders, no defenders could stop him, and he was one of the best midfielders that year. If I've got the year correct, hopefully I have. You know what season I'm talking about. I just remember one goal against like Stoke City, or like a mid-table team like that, where he sort of just ran through the halfway line and he shot outside the box and it went in. Absolute screamers for days, Yaya Toure. That's one thing that I remember. But yeah, he left in 2019, had 8 years in the Premier League. I feel like compared to some of the other players on this list, he probably didn't have the longevity, or he probably didn't stay in the Premier League as long as the others did. So that's probably why he's the lowest on this list. But to be top 5 greatest Premier League midfielders of all time, it is saying something, because you've got other players in the likes of, like, as I mentioned before, Cesc Fabregas, who was fantastic, David Silva, who was fantastic as well. So yeah, top 5. That's your top 5 place for me. Right, and now let's move over to 4th position. The 4th player on my list is Paul Scholes. Now, this might be controversial to some, I may know that. Obviously, let's talk about some of his stats. Appearances, he's got 499. Now, for me, couldn't he have played one more game to get to 500? Obviously, that doesn't really matter, but I think to my OCD, it does a little bit. So he's got 499 appearances, he's got 107 goals and 55 assists. Now, compared to some other players on this list, it is actually quite low, considering he's had like a lot of time in the Premier League. Obviously, he only played through Manchester United, came through their academy, and he's a one-man legend, as some might say. The main achievement that Paul Scholes has He's got 11 Premier League trophies. Now, that is incredible. He's got double digits Premier League trophies. Not many players can say that in terms of midfielders. Don't get me wrong, he's fantastic, and he's got an eye for a pass. He can score goals. Again, he's not very defensively minded, but he can do that as well. I think a lot of Premier League players coming through look up to Paul Scholes as one of the greatest in the league, and he definitely is for sure. But I just feel like the other 3 players on my list, I've watched a little bit more, and I do rate him a little bit higher, if that makes sense. Paul Scholes, I think Paul Scholes got a bit unlucky because he sort of came through that Manchester United side playing 4-4-2, not really playing in a 3-man midfield. And I just feel like if he actually came through in this modern era, he might have had a better chance. Well, not better chance, but like he might have had even more higher stats and even more trophies on his record. But you got to give him his prop. You got to give him his flowers. 11 Premier League trophies is amazing. I'm sure he's got has he got a European trophy in there somewhere? He probably has, hasn't he? So yeah, that was my number 4 pick. Paul Scholes, absolute legend. Playing in the playground, I would always shout Scholes, 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 passing it about and whatnot. But for me, there are 3 better players on this list for me. Now, my 3rd pick, again, might be a little bit controversial. Okay, it is Liverpool legend Steven Gerrard. Yes, what can you say about Steven Gerrard? When you speak about this man, you got to mention the fact that he's an all action-packed midfielder. He can do a little bit of everything. I think he's the only midfielder on this list who can do that. When you think about Steven Gerrard, you think about him scoring from outside the box. You think about him driving through midfield. You think about him driving through midfield. You think about him putting in those late tackles, those late defensive tackles, challenging for the ball, those heated debates with Roy Keane in his early days. I'm probably sure like other players like in that AC Milan run in the Champions League, and that was his main trophy achievement, wasn't it? Getting the Champions League over the line, beating AC Milan on penalties. That comeback alone, that one game from Liverpool over those 2 legs, let's say, to win the Champions League the way they did. Obviously, getting back from 3 goals down, making it 3-3, and then winning on penalties, outstanding. But I think one thing that let Steven Gerrard down is he's got 0 Premier League trophies, and that's a little bit annoying. A little bit, it's one thing that people always point to the fact where Steven Gerrard that sort of lets his down his sort of legacy in that sort of sense, because he's a fantastic player, but to not get a Premier League trophy in his cabinet is very disappointing, because if you think about the calibre of player Steven Gerrard was, he's right up there with the best. Like, obviously he's 3rd on my list for a reason. If we talk about some of the stats as well, he's got 504 appearances, 121 goals, and 92 assists. So that alone, he's already got better stats than Paul Scholes in well, he had a few more games to Paul Scholes as well, probably like 5 or 6 more games to Paul Scholes in that time. Obviously, coming through the academy at Liverpool as well, being a Scouser himself, being a one-man club legend. Obviously, he did go to LA Galaxy for a time, but that was only for like 6 months a year, so I don't really class that. But yeah, there was some rumours around him joining Chelsea at one point, which could have been interesting to see him with, like, obviously the likes of Lampard, John Terry, Joe Cole, Didier Drogba. It would have been very interesting to see if he would have got a Premier League trophy under his belt. He probably would have, wouldn't he? Went to that Chelsea side back in the day under Jose Mourinho. But yeah, I think that's the one thing that always lets him down in that Steven Gerrard's legacy. But either way, fantastic player, incredible player, and he is right up there for me. But anyways, going on to our 2nd player in our list, in our top 5 ranking. Now, this might be a little bit surprising to some, but it is Frank Lampard. Now, don't get me wrong, I always hear a few of these debates, and Lampard is quite low on the list, and I don't understand why, because if you read out some of the stats, again, like I mentioned previously, right, he's got 609 Premier League appearances, he's got 177 goals and 102 assists. When you think of Frank Lampard, he is Mr. Chelsea. He's Chelsea's top goal scorer in their history. and that is absolutely saying something. From midfield, he's their top scorer, and he's not even a striker. You'd expect your club's top scorer to be a striker, wouldn't you? That's what I think anyways. Obviously, Gabi Wanhor is Aston Villa's top striker, but Watkins might overtake him soon, hopefully. He's got 2 goals left. But yeah, when you think about Frank Lampard, you think about that Jose Mourinho Chelsea side, don't you? Obviously, in his early days, he joined in 2001, so his early days he was playing with like Ian Robben, Damien Duff, other players that I can't think of. Calverio, maybe the Portuguese centre-back, potentially. You know, I didn't really watch, I wasn't really following football back then, but, you know, when I think about Chelsea, is that Jose Mourinho side under with like John Terry, Joe Cole, Didier Drogba, Michael Essien, Michael Ballack, absolutely fantastic players. They had great players all over the pitch, and Chelsea were dominating. You know, back in the day, they were Man City before Man City were Man City, you know what I'm saying? They were the first team proper dominating. Well, after Man United, some might say as well. But yeah, if we read off Frank Lampard's top achievements, he's got 3 Premier League titles, 4 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, a Champions League and a Europa League as well. So he is fantastic, and I feel like something that edges him over Steven Gerrard to that second space would be the goals and the assists. You can't rule out having those numbers as a Premier League midfielder, as a number 8, driving into the box and scoring those like little late tap-ins. That's one thing that I remember from Lampard, and I remember him and his England goal especially, that goal against Germany. I will never forget that goal. Hitting off the bar, I still believe now, right, that goal went over the line. That might have just been me, I don't know. But let me know in the comments, do you think that was a goal? Because I definitely do. But either way, we won't get into England bias and the whole England team, because that's a whole separate video, okay? But yeah, Frank Lampard for me was seriously underrated, and I feel like when you can do that comparison between who's the best England midfielder out of Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, I feel like it is a lot closer than a lot of people admit, and I feel like Lampard probably is the second on the list, because he's got the trophies over the line, he's got the goals over the line, and compared to Steven Gerrard, that's what edges it for me. Right, so moving over to my number 1 place, my number 1 greatest Premier League midfielder, number 8 of all time. It is a serious person, okay? It is Kevin De Bruyne. That is right. Kevin De Bruyne is my number 1 pick. And, you know, there's been a lot of recent news where he's sort of leaving Man City now. And this is the whole reason why I'm doing this video. Because, let me read out some of his stats. Okay. Since joining Wolfsburg, he's made 413 appearances, scored 70 goals, and got 118 assists. Now, that is the most assists out of anybody on this list in about, what, 8 or 9 years in the Premier League? Absolutely obscene, okay? Not one other player on this list has got over 100 assists. So, for me, that is fantastic. And also, a quick little stat on his appearances. He's got 413 appearances. Only 12 other Man City players in their history have worn the Man City shirt for longer than Kevin De Bruyne, which is very interesting. He's got 19 major trophies as a Man City player, and he is the most decorated Man City player in their history. He's got the most trophies in their history. Obviously, let me just read out some of the trophies. He's got 6 Premier Leagues, 5 Carabao Cups, 2 FA Cups, and 1 Champions League. He's by far the best midfielder that I've ever seen in the Premier League. Okay, if you think about Kevin De Bruyne, you think about his eye for a pass, his precision passing, his dead ball situation, crosses, okay. If he's on the wing and he crosses it into the box, it's guaranteed for the striker or the centre midfielder, his sort of his partner in midfield, as you like, is guaranteed for them to score a goal more 9 times out of 10, especially if you've got Aguero in there, especially if you've got David Silva, especially if you've got Erling Haaland, Raheem Sterling, all these players. I feel like, you know, obviously another player like I mentioned, it was 5th. Yaya Toure was the start of Man City's, you know, dynasty, if you like. And then Kevin De Bruyne sort of finished it, some might say, because I don't know whether Man City next season are going to be the same team as they were this season. And even then, they haven't been that great this year. I've like potentially finishing 4th, who knows. But yeah, Kevin De Bruyne can absolutely do it all. He might not be as good defensively as like a Steven Gerrard, because I feel like Steven Gerrard is very much defensively minded. Like I said, he's an all-action midfielder. He can do everything. Don't get me wrong, Kevin De Bruyne can chip in here with a few defensive tackles, but it's his attacking ability that wins it for me. You know, when you think of a creative eight, when you think of a creative number 8 and number 10, he can do both roles to perfection, and he is the best midfielder I've seen, I've witnessed, I've watched for all these years. It's a hard one with you know, obviously I think he's a bit better than Frank Lampard. He's got a higher legacy than Frank Lampard because of the trophies he's won for Man City. I know it's sort of fashionable to sort of hate on Man City because they have been so dominant, but when you've won so many achievements, when you've got so many trophies like Kevin De Bruyne has got, you sort of got to give him his props, you've got to give him his flowers, you've got to respect him, and you've got to say, congratulations, you are the best midfielder of all time in the Premier League. But don't get me wrong, like I mentioned at the start of this video, all of these top 5 players are the greatest. Okay, it's just my opinion. It's what I think. It's what I believe. Okay, it's just you know, it's football. We're debating the beautiful game, and it is fantastic at the end of the day. So you know, obviously, let me know in the comments what your guys' thoughts are. Okay, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it, and let me know if you want me to make this into a proper series where I rank top 5 players from every position. You know, CDMs, strikers, left wingers, right wingers, centre backs, all that sort of good stuff. And yeah, thank you guys for watching once again. I do really appreciate the support on the socials. And yeah, go check out my socials if you want to check out the latest episode, the video clips as well. So see you guys later, and thanks for watching.